Happy Sunday! We once again have Vinny here and trusty topic jar. Let's get after it. Oh. Awesome. I can't do this with one hand. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. Wow. What a topic. Developing a personality. So, I think what I was referring to was a relatively, so I mentioned this in a past video, the one about my How to Train Your Dragon experience. I think I mentioned in that video that after that I had a weird and unpleasant but also transformational period of my life. And I think there were a lot of different factors at play, but the final outcome of that phase of life is that I felt like more of a person. It feels like I became more of a person during that time. And this would have been 2023. So that would have been my 29th year of life. So I don't know. If one wanted to play devil's advocate, one could argue that that kind of thing is just part of getting older, and maybe it had nothing to do with what I am about to describe, but I don't find that argument very convincing, just because of the circumstances and the, whatever. So let's see, how did this even come about? So, okay, I'll just try to tell the story chronologically, I guess. After I had this really weird experience that if you want to know about it, you'll have to go look at the other video. Well, listen to it. Just looking at it won't do anything for you. And I was still in this mode of a lot of introspection, a lot of recognizing my own patterns and trying to break any of them that felt dysfunctional or unhealthy or unhelpful in any way. And I hadn't really had any luck with therapy in the past or working with therapists, but somebody recommended to me a woman who was working as a life coach, and I don't know, I was just I was having a tough time because for whatever reason I again, I mentioned this at the end of the How to Train Your Dragon video, but I felt like an alien in my own life. Everything seemed the same as far as I couldn't put my finger on anything in my life that had changed, but everything felt different. Like I had become a different person or something. It was really weird and wasn't able to describe it well then. I'm not really able to describe it well now. The closest thing that I could find on the internet as a potential label for it was depersonalization or derealization. But those kind of focused more on feeling very, I don't know, weird in your body, and almost like you're watching your life through glass, or it's a movie or something like that. And so just a lot of the ways people would describe those syndromes didn't really resonate with me. So I had something weird going on. Don't know what it was. It lasted for a long time, for 9 months. And so yeah, I was really looking for just some kind of support. So I was like, what the heck, I'll try this life coach. And we ended up, one of the main things that we ended up working on together was, got some fins doing something. What we ended up working on together was helping me express myself more easily, I guess. And what I mean is, like, anytime, like, here's a really good example. I'll give you two examples of when I've noticed this. But basically, it's a pattern of, if the thing that I want to express might cause some kind of social dissonance, it's like some module in my brain just like immediately squashes whatever my authentic expression would have been, and I become like frozen. And almost like some people will say, like, oh, that person has no filter. I have like too much of a filter, or had, but only in circumstances where like it would have caused social distance, whatever. So the two, the one of the times where I really noticed this is such a funny story. I really wanted to learn how to like partner dance, like salsa dance, and I didn't have a partner to practice with. So this was really naive and probably a really annoying thing to do, but I made a Hinge profile, basically saying like, I'm not actually looking to date, but if anybody wants to learn salsa and just like platonically learn how to salsa together, like that's what I'm looking for. And so like I found a guy and invited him over to my house, and like everything was fine. Everything was really fine. He was a little, I don't know, there were some things that felt weird to me. And one thing that he did was he kind of kept messing with my animals in a way that like, well, definitely wasn't like over the top, like a problem or anything, but just, I know my animals. I know my dog. I know that the kinds of things they like and the kinds of things that will really freak them out. So he was like doing this, and I felt this like surge of just like sort of protective anger well up inside of me. Like I felt this strong energy in my body, but like up here, like on my face or like in my voice, everything felt like frozen. Like I had this just like deer in headlights smile and nod kind of feeling. And like it wasn't really a big deal. He like I ended up not saying anything, which I didn't feel good about, because I was like, after he left, I was like, oh my God, like what if that had been my kid? Like I just like, he was doing something that was clearly distressing my dog, and I was like unable to say anything. And so I brought this up with my life coach, and had actually noticed the exact same pattern with her, where as I would be talking about my life or whatever to her, and she would like repeat things back to me or bring things up that I had said in the past or whatever, very, very occasionally, because she's human, she would get something wrong. And rather than just being like, oh, like that's actually not right, let me correct you, I would again feel this like feel that like impulse to like, or it's like I wouldn't even get an impulse to correct her. It's like I would just get this like doom stress feeling in my body, and have this like frozen deer in headlights experience where I'm just like looking at her frozen, like, oh my God, like and like because some like module has squashed my sort of like, I don't know, bottom up authentic expression of whatever the thing is, my brain still registers that something needs to be communicated, but it's trying to like calculate how to orient my face and what words to say in order to communicate this thing while being completely detached from like my authentic feelings. So that's kind of what created that like frozen deer in headlights thing. So yeah, I like explained all of this to her, and she became really, really good about like checking in with me every session that we have, every session that we had. Wow. Like, so was there was there any point in the last, half an hour where you had that feeling? And a lot of times I would have to be like, yeah. And she would be like, okay, well, like, tell me what you wanted to say. Like, what did I get wrong? What are you withholding? So like having that like open communication and like practice with another person was extremely helpful. But the other thing that I did, and I think this was her suggestion, is I've always been a huge journaler, but like written, which is the normal way to journal. I started journaling via voice memo. So just recording voice memos to myself rather than writing things down. And the first time I did it, it felt so weird. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like things weren't connecting. Like it felt like I was having a hard time connecting the part of my brain that wanted to like journal things, that had things to say, with the part of my brain that was actually speaking. But I got used to it like super fast, and then I really liked it. It's like, wow, this is, first of all, way quicker and easier than writing stuff down, because you know how your hand can't keep up with the speed of your thoughts. And I could do it in the car while I was driving. You can communicate so much more emotion. And I guess that's kind of the point, is I guess I got used to like expressing whatever I was feeling, whatever, especially like negative emotions or difficult emotions. I got used to expressing those verbally in like to myself in the privacy of my own space with no one else around. And I think that combined with the like work and practice that I was doing with the life coach, combined with this like really weird, disrupted, transitional mental state that I was already in, probably also combined with the other like sort of personal things that I think played into the weird mental state that I was having, like a lot of like very significant either stabilizing attachments or other like sort of load-bearing parts of either my life or my identity or my relationships, like several of them kind of in quick succession, were sort of like severed or destabilized. And so I think that put me in a very like unique place for changing things up. And yeah, like I really started to feel like a different person. I had always been somebody from as early as I could remember, like being a young child all the way up, through college and through most of my 20s. I was just kind of like the kind of quiet, easily forgotten about, largely invisible girl who's just like I always had friends and people seemed to like me just fine, but I was never like the main character. And all of a sudden I started more and more frequently to feel like the main character. Like obviously the main character in my own life, but also like hanging out in groups of people, I found myself like, oh, I feel like the main character here in this group. And that was a totally brand new experience for me and was really nice. And a lot of the, I don't know, a lot of the sort of background, I've never had social anxiety, but at least not that I'm aware of, but just sort of like the background little bits of like overthinking that I'm sure everybody has, like trying to figure out how to be interesting or engaging or say the right thing or whatever. Like that really largely went away. And sort of simultaneously with all of that, I don't think that I had this as a separate topic. If I do and I discover it in the jar later, I'll just have to come up with something else to talk about. But during all of this, I was also experiencing a lot more emotional tumult. Like my internal state felt a lot more tumultuous, a lot more dramatic. There are a couple of really funny incidents that I'll talk about in a different video, but like all of a sudden the thing that people will often refer to as like reparenting, like reparenting your inner child. All of a sudden I was like, wow, it feels like I have a toddler living inside of me. Like I'll just be going about my day like a functional adult, and all of a sudden it's like some part of my brain is absolutely throwing a tantrum. And I had always been like a very emotionally controlled person and really identified with that aspect of myself, like really identified with never overreacting to things, never being dramatic, never like, I don't know, just always being like very measured and very intellectual and very very controlled. And yeah, like because I was experiencing this while I was actively daily practicing verbally expressing myself more, I just found myself starting to express myself in a very different way. And also like I'll have to talk about this more a different time, because there's some specific instances that I think were kind of like watershed moments for this kind of aspect of it. But the upshot of all of this was it felt like there was a substantial part of my psyche, I guess, whatever people talk about when they talk about doing like parts work or internal family systems. It felt like there was this part of me that was the more emotional, more dramatic, more expressive, more like creative part that I had just repressed and squashed and controlled for my whole life. And all of a sudden I was like kind of entering into communication with it and making amends with it and integrating it into the rest of my personality. And the most remarkable result of this that really told me that I did something real is that my relationship with my mom all of a sudden felt good and easy and normal. And I had not had that since before I got sick when I was 14. And, you know, before then, I don't remember what my relationship with my mom was. It's just not something that I like logged in my brain. But, you know, in hindsight, I can kind of like put these pieces together and be like, oh, all of the aspects of my own personality that I've now rediscovered and reintegrated are all of the things that are like my mom, that are similar to her personality. And just from a simple like psychological projection mechanism, it kind of makes sense that if I'm having this like really guarded protective stance towards her, I would also have the same guarded protective stance towards any parts that resemble her that are internal to me, or vice versa. I don't know which one, chicken or egg kind of thing. Like if I already had that relationship to my internal parts, it makes sense that that would manifest itself in how I relate to other people who tend to like express those traits. But yeah, I can't overstate how just suddenly and entirely this really difficult problem was just resolved. Because it was a very long time where I was just not really able to enjoy spending time with my mom. Like I just had this really guarded, prickly feeling that I hated, and it felt like there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. And without even trying, without even focusing on that as a problem, I just all of a sudden noticed like, wow, I now really enjoy spending time with my mom, and I don't have that feeling at all anymore. Like, not even a little bit. It's just gone. It's not like, oh, some days it's there, sometimes it comes back. It's like this is the most, like, probably one of the most, like, complete and durable shifts I've ever experienced in any aspect of, like, physical or mental being. So that is very cool, and that is the story of how I developed a personality. Yeah, I'll probably have more to say on this another time, but that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a good Sunday.